ANCAP and libertarian ideology, two particular ideologies that have no rational basis whatsoever in any existing material condition at any historical period, and two ideas that whenever they have been implemented have led to a complete and utter disaster, or particularly ANCAPs in achieving absolutely nothing whatsoever. So given this fact, it's very strange that we would see the new Argentinian president, Javier Milei, this is what I like to call him. I like to call him Milei, who declared himself to be an ANCAP, said the free market could serve basically everything, and that Argentina would be absolutely better with as minimal regulation. Being an ANCAP, there would technically have to be no regulation and no government whatsoever. So naturally, he ran for president of the country on platforms that made absolutely no sense, like abolishing the central bank, then giving up the Argentinian peso and using the US dollar, which also is backed by a central bank in another country, which you wouldn't have control of, and is known to be predatory. So you can see the kind of complete nonsense policies this guy was even advocating for, and then won. So naturally, when he came into power, the first thing he did was ban people from criticizing the government, because that's what ANCAPs are about, right? Well, they say they're about abolishing the government, but then when they actually get even a modicum of power, the first thing they do is ban anyone from criticizing the government. Like, to the point for saying anyone trying to pass a policy that says anyone who's unemployed cannot engage in protesting. So if, say, you have high unemployment and you're unemployed as a result, you're not allowed to criticize that. You're not even supposed to be able to do the most basic democratic right, which is to criticize the government, while being a person who believes that the government shouldn't even exist. I know this is complete and utter nonsense, but that is what ANCAP ideology is. It's essentially a bunch of lofty claims that never get put into practice, could not be put into practice. And even in this one example where they could, they literally did the absolute opposite, to which they will no doubt say, this is the state's fault, because that is literally their answer for every single one of their failures and every bit of incompetence in their ideology. So, there's really not much more to say to that. The ideology has been a complete failure. The Free State Project in New Hampshire, you'll remember that from a number of years ago, where everybody was going to live in this libertarian paradise. And they literally called it a paradise and a utopia. The problem is the whole thing fell apart when they couldn't deal with the local wildlife. In fact, because of the way that nobody could tell them what to do with their trash, their household waste, so they just, polluted, they attracted black bears. And then New Hampshire got its first black bear attack in 100 years because of the way that they were irresponsibly destroying the environment, because they have every right to do that, because the government can't tell me not to destroy the environment. Or we could take the example of Galt's Gulch in Chile that was attempted a number of years ago. They were going to create this ANCAP paradise, this utopian nonsense where nobody could tell you what to do, by first going to an authority and buying property from someone who declared themselves to be an authority over everybody else, and then would have the authority to tell everybody else essentially how they could develop their property, being the absolute opposite of everything it is they claim they stood for. And then they claim themselves to be an ANCAP paradise, while they are still they were completely subject to the laws in Chile, meaning they hadn't actually done anything in any way, shape, or form. They hadn't eliminated any government authority. They hadn't gotten rid of any regulation whatsoever, because they were still under the authority of it. It was almost basically a con job. This guy got up a bunch of land, overcharged for it, with this false image of a unregulated paradise. And it was nothing but. This was essentially a scam. But that's kind of what ANCAP ideology is. And even keeping in the spirit of Chile, when Augusto Pinochet came to power and the Chicago School said now is going to be the time of free market regulation and the free market's going to magically make everything work under the guise of a literal fascist. Pinochet was an open fascist. Like he didn't even hide it. And then what proceeded to happen with the libertarian reforms was the country economically collapsed. Then they nationalized the main industry in the country, and then the country began to recover. And then the Chicago School went around calling it the Chilean miracle. If by miracle you mean do the opposite of what your ideology says, then I guess if that's how you define a miracle, then yes, that would be a miracle. This new president in Argentina has done nothing but the opposite of what ANCAP is. He has very violently defended the government that he says shouldn't exist. He has done the opposite of everything the completely contradictory ideology stands for. Anarchism is anti-capitalist by its very definition. There is no such thing as an ANCAP. It's literal nonsense. In fact, it's frankly just outright stupid. So, what can we expect to see from Argentina for the next little while? Obviously, more fascist policies, like sending in the military or the police to beat up people protesting the government, because that's what ANCAPs believe in. It's going to degenerate into a complete nightmare. The president already wants to devaluate the Argentinian peso, which he didn't get rid of, by the way, even though he said he was going to, by 50%. Now, this is very clearly an act to encourage foreign investment, because that's also what ANCAPs do. I mean, this guy couldn't be any more very obviously a U.S. puppet, a puppet of the actual elite in the country who are now starting to get mad at him because of his devaluation of the peso to this degree. Some degree would help them, but to this degree, it's still kind of nonsense and is not really all that good for them. I mean, he's just basically selling out the entire country to the United States. That's exactly what's going to happen. U.S. businesses are going to move in at a 50% discount and buy up everything. I'm sorry, but this whole thing is completely nonsense. This whole thing is completely insane. And the people who voted for this guy, who voted for a guy who said he opposed government existing and then ran for president and chose that guy, they're frankly just incompetent. This makes no sense whatsoever. And this is going to devolve into essentially what ANCAPs and libertarians really are. Fascists. They speak about freedom from this, freedom from that, freedom to choose. And then as soon as they don't get that absolute utopian vision that can't exist, they immediately turn into fascists. That's why there is a libertarian to fascist ideological pipeline. That's basically how it works. They sign up for the thing, I can do whatever I want, which is usually another way of saying they don't want to acknowledge black people, etc. No one should have to make me acknowledge that other people even exist. And then to enforce that right, they essentially go right into totalitarian measures. Now they say things like private armies, private police, etc., which are basically the exact same thing as like a regular bourgeois country, like a regular capitalist country. And then when that obviously doesn't work, they turn to increasingly repressive measures and then eventually give up and just use the state to do it, turning into fascists. That's what happens. That's literally the development of that ideology. That's why that political pipeline exists. So to be perfectly honest, what we're going to see out of Argentina for the next couple of years, probably a complete disaster, if the government even lasts that long. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.